Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Series, where we chat about everything leadership, coaching, and marketing, and the aim of adding value to people's lives, happening every Wednesday and Thursday on ebizradio.com. You can catch Lunchtime Series on all your major podcast channels. And to help us grow the channel, please like, follow, and share with everyone. And in today's marketing and leadership segment, we have the wonderful Craig Page-Lee joining us, marketing and communications expert. How are you doing, Craig?
Yeah, Kevin, good, thank you. Here we are, whizzing away, counting the days to year end. But no, I'm good. I had a great weekend away in the bush, and just wonderful to spend time celebrating friends' birthdays in nature and having an awesome time. So yeah, started the week on a good note.
It's best way to spend a weekend, I think.
Absolutely right, yeah.
Greg, so just for those who didn't get to hear the show last week, don't you want to give us a quick update on what we did speak about? Really fascinating topic.
Yeah, Kevin, thanks. Last week it was quite an enjoyable topic, and there's again I've built a nice link to today's topic, but going back to that, we had the conversation on preparing leaders for 2023. The key takeaway points are from the article that I came across on capacitybuilding.com. Article was published on the 4th of November 2022, really current insights, written by Ed Robinson, and it is titled 10 Things Business Leaders Need to Do in 2023. So the 10 principles are noted as follows. The first is don't spend money needlessly. If there isn't a clear return on investment, then conserve your cash and wait until there is. The second principle here is trim the fat from your business model, and this means striving to get lean and mean in your day-to-day business activities. The third principle is about assessing and upgrading the talent in all of your key positions. Here, it's about never missing an opportunity to top grade your key positions, but make sure there's a cultural fit. Really, really important point that. The fourth principle is about focusing your A players like a laser beam. It's about keeping them in the communication loop, giving them the additional responsibilities and training, and then setting them loose across the organization. The fifth principle is look for sacred cows and get rid of them. For example, could be the likes of long-term client relationships that are no longer serving well, or even product lines that are popular but marginally profitable. The sixth principle is about evaluating all of your core processes to make them as smooth and easy to navigate as possible. Really important point for business. Don't become hard to do business with, externally or internally. Seventh principle is about creating an employee morale committee. Really, really great point for this is, regardless of the position, select about 7 to 10 people across your organization and use them as a sounding board on workplace issues. Principle 8 is continually assess and refine your business development and sales process or investments. Look for training opportunities, experiment with new initiatives, and use these as pilot projects. Principle 9 is stress the business from the outside in, not inside out. Again, another point that really resonates with me. Rather strain organizational capacity with too much work than burden the organization with too much capacity that is a very expensive and unused resource. And the final principle is invest in your own leadership development and in your key people as well. And here it's about you're only as good as what you know and implement, and you should never stop learning. And those are the key takeaway points from last week, Kevin.
Fantastic, guys. If you want to go check that out, go check it out on the Lunchtime Series. Really great conversation we had last week. But Craig, what are we up for today? What we got for the listeners?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I want to pick up on the topic that is a bit of a follow-on from last week's theme, which obviously included trends that will impact on organizations in 2023, but actually this time looking at it from a slightly different angle, not necessarily a negative angle, but the fact that some workplace trends really are slowing business or depicting elements that are slowing business down. So whilst we had a lot of positive on the one hand, this week we're looking at what are those potential traits and trends that are actually slowing your business down, and how do you overcome those?
Yeah, I'm so glad that this is a conversation that we're going to talk about, because there is a tremendous amount of information and feedback that I'm getting from clients that They are struggling with exactly this next line that I saw you've got here. So tell us what that is.
Yeah,
I'm keen to
fantastic.
hear about
I'm
it.
glad. Yeah. So a really great article and topic on blog HubSpot.com. Articles titled "A Crisis of Disconnection: Three Workplace Trends Slowing Business Growth." It was written by Hannah Nickerson and published on November 14, 2022. Again, really relevant and current information. And what's great, it's part of a series, The Crisis of Disconnection Thought Leadership series, and it evaluates research and insights on how businesses can actually meet their growth goals, Kevin. But what's great here, it opens with the following quotes. First, there was the Great Recession, at least resignation. Then there was quiet quitting. Now there's the crisis of disconnection, driven by rapidly growing gaps between data and systems, cross-functional teams, and companies and their customers. Yamini Rangan, the CEO of HubSpot, adds the following to that. It's no secret that reaching customers has become more challenging in recent years. Interested in going a few steps further to develop meaningful, lasting relationships? That's an even taller order. To sustain business growth during trying times, many of us are realizing we need to reimagine how we attract, engage, and delight the communities we serve. Until recently, it's been equally tricky to pinpoint a root cause for what that feels like an uphill battle. The struggle, as they say, is real. And what's great here again, Kevin, is that communities talks about both internal and external as well. So it's your customer experience as well as your employee experience.
Craig, so to the point of the Great Resignation, I think it's really pushing the agenda for a lot of corporates to realign and relook at how do they keep the talent, right? And that's really forcing them to speak to this hybrid lull that they're finding themselves in, and struggling with, right? And speaking to that quiet quitting. Why have people moved into this lull of disinterest, and really just showing up for the sake of being at work and getting a paycheck? So I think as much as it's this phenomenon that's happening, what it is showing us is that businesses have far more responsibility and have to be far more responsible to their own workforce, and how they show up for their own workforce, and how they lead with empathy and lead with a giving heart instead of getting the numbers crunched, right? It's really raising a whole. I think what it is doing, it's forcing leadership to evolve into something we've never seen leadership really sort of spearhead before, and it's a very different way of doing business, but it's a necessary way of doing business. So, I mean, Craig, with some of those points, some of the growth challenges that businesses are currently faced with, what are some of those growth challenges?
Yeah, Kevin, so the article highlights some really great high-level points of view on what's top of mind for business leaders, what's keeping them awake at night. And these are the likes of tough economic, macroeconomic times, et cetera, but it really starts with a great question. Are times tough for all small businesses? And based on the feedback and findings of the research, all signs are that tough times exist for businesses of all sizes, but most definitely for small to medium enterprises. They really are facing a barrage of challenges from different directions. And there's another key note that really supports us, and it states that the economy is on a roller coaster ride, which we all know. The stock market's giving new meaning to the word volatile, geopolitical conflicts are escalating, and a global pandemic may have more unprecedented times in store, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. And that's a reality. You read any online news article, any radio, any television program, and they validating the very same points. So it really is a tough place for businesses. But rather concerning is the fact that HubSpot's research team actually found that tried and tested methods for effective lead generation or organizational growth are actually becoming less reliable, Kevin, with 63% of businesses actually agreeing that the growth strategies that they used in the past are now less effective than they used to be. And that's a high number, 63%. And when your entire growth strategy of lead generation and conversion has been ineffective, you've got some major issues in business. Other top concerns that came out of the report, Kevin, is that constant increase in operational expenses, constant increase in marketing and communication costs to reach customers and prospects, and on the back of that, a real slowdown of growth across many sectors. So contracting spend on a consumer side, increasing a cost to exist and market on a brand side. Some of the other challenges there could be the likes of too much wasted time in organizations, difficulties with communicating, collaborating between teams, difficulty in engaging prospective buyers, much
too
higher
many
churn.
meetings, too many meetings,
Yes,
Craig, right?
Too many
meetings.
Yep. Too much wasted time. Quite right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And just, the likes of increased churn both internally and externally, and ineffective and unoptimized buying processes. And we're always talking about the extended consumer journey. And those are critical points that businesses really need to address. And the challenge again there is at the small, particularly on the small enterprise side, they don't necessarily have the capital and resources to be able to fill a pipeline or manage a pipeline effectively, because they just don't have the capacity to do that. But what's really interesting to note is that while growth challenges can obviously be attributed to the likes of these multiple factors that I mentioned, economics, high interest rates, disrupted supply chains on the back of COVID, and even the war in Ukraine, the core of the problem actually emanates from a single cause, Kevin. That being lack of connection. And they cited some really nice examples here. The first being actual misalignment between operating technologies and systems, leading to disconnected data, with only 22% of businesses reporting that they have excellent data connectedness. That's less than a quarter of small businesses, Kevin. That's quite alarming. The other challenge there is the likes of siloed teams. This leads to a whole lot of internal friction. And 49% of US workers actually feel that the teams are working effectively in a hybrid model. Only 49%. Going back to the earlier point of, the quiet quitting, the other 51% are not happy. They're just exiting these organizations. Companies and their customers are not joined effectively, and this leads to very much a disjointed experience, which is forcing businesses to evolve their existing strategies and actually to rethink their operational procedures and processes. And again, another alarming statistic here is as much as 64% of businesses report that their sales effectiveness is worse now than pre-pandemic times, Kevin. Those are alarming points to consider for any small business.
Craig, and that's one of the things, and fortunately, that's part of the preempted sort of strategy that we, from my perspective, have looked at what is happening to corporates, because we've noticed the disconnect that people are feeling. We specifically have noticed how people are not actually connecting with each other. People are working in silos. And it's become this, and that's why some of the programs that we are offering organizations at the moment is quite specifically aimed at how do I actually engage and how do I connect with my team differently, right? So like everything that you're finding and sharing with us today is spot on from my perspective as well, because people are. A lot of leaders, a lot of large corporates that that have been around for hundreds of years. I mean, like the one insurance company that we worked with has been around for 100 years, and they cannot find the sweet spot of hybrid working. They still actively struggle on how to do this. But I mean, it's there, it's real, and if you're not speaking to how to retain your those instrument key players in your business, you're probably going to lose them to the guys that are agile and quick enough to make people comfortable.
Yeah. And it's interesting you talk about the hybrid model. I've noticed in the last week and a bit there is an enormous amount of content appearing on my in my inbox on various websites, on various newsletters that I follow. It's just a topic that suddenly seems to have heightened interest and much relevance moving into 2023. So I think I'll have a look at some of that content and see if we can at least carry a show before the year end on the real impact of what's happening in the work from home hybrid world of work.
Absolutely, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, Kevin, what was good is the article provided some really good in-depth insight into three main drivers that are actually behind this crisis of disconnection, and it shows how these are impacting on the sustainability of business growth. So yeah, let's have a look at these three in a bit more detail. The first point is internal systems are disconnected. So it's about when COVID first broke out, we changed many of our daily activities from in-person to online. And obviously we had to all do it out of a necessity, both personally and professionally. But now as companies are embracing many more increasingly digital ways of working on a permanent basis, streamlining systems to increase efficiency, decrease friction, and accelerate connectivity are actually now more important than ever. But achieving this aim is not proving to be an easy task for organizations, as these disconnected systems are rated as the #1 pain point for many companies. So some interesting stats to actually validate this reality, Kevin, are noted as follows. 74% of businesses reported that they actually need to switch between many different tools and systems to actually get their jobs done. So inefficiency is there straight away. 65% of businesses have actually invested in creating much stronger connections among their systems in the past 12 months, while only 26% currently have all of their tools integrated into one core platform to enable stronger connections and effective operations and running of their business. High data quality, #1 desired feature of any new CRM platform. Good to see that there. 77% of marketers say that the data is important to their overall marketing strategy, helping them reach their target audience, understanding which marketing strategies are most effective, and creating more effective content on the back of that. But unfortunately, only 19% of these organizations actually have access to very high data quality, Kevin. And yeah, it's a tough one to chew on that. But what this means is that the small business teams are spending way too much time sourcing, analyzing, verifying data from various touchpoint solutions instead of actually working on improving that end-to-end customer experience. And to enable the teams to do their best work, though, businesses need to firstly acknowledge that the status quo is not suitable for sustained business growth. Business owners need to be cognizant that implementing various point solutions does impact on total cost of ownership. Senior leaders need to manage time effectively, as these manual or complex reporting process and requirements wastes an incredible amount of valuable time on analysis and action. And individual contributors actually need to eliminate the need to constantly switch between tools, as this leads to productivity loss on one end and possibly the emotional challenge of burnout and depression on the other end within businesses. Moving on to the second point.
Sorry, Craig. Yes. So just again to that point of burnout and depression, right? It's one of the leading factors and leading sort of legs to the Great Resignation. It's one of, and this I have no stats to support this. This is just from engaging with my clients and looking at, what is really coming up for them. And mental health, unbelievably important. A sense of belonging, also unbelievably important. And the fact that because there's a hybrid model, because there's this need for you to be available online all the time, people are just completely burnt out, and it has sort of a vicious circle of influence on each other the whole time, right? and well-being is unbelievably important to this whole phenomenon that people are experiencing.
Kevin, I think the emotional stress factor is just totally the biggest challenge that I've had to deal with in this regard as well. You're constantly online. Your day doesn't start at 8 and end at 5. There's an expectation to be needing to prep beforehand, an expectation to be available afterwards as well. And it's just this constant, you have to be 100% attentive and in expectation mode all of the time in this world of online, because you're not in a practice of face-to-face, have the conversation, engage in softer conversational aspects as well, as opposed to just work, talk the whole time. And it's this constant pressure on your shoulders, pulling you down on a really negative way. But that also talks to the next point, where people are working in silos post-pandemic, and it's easy to forget the majority of us used to have great conversations in the office 5 days a week pre-COVID, and the advantage there was co-workers could regularly get the chance to update, face-to-face engagement. And probably the biggest negative there was the fact that you had to travel to your workplace. Whereas once you're in the workplace environment, all of these other positive attributes come along and take you past that negative point. However, according to HubSpot's 2022 hybrid work report, we are seeing post-pandemic the following. 81% of businesses believe that the global pandemic has fundamentally changed the way we live and work. Yes, obviously. But a real simple case in point is the complexities of just trying to connect and collaborate across the myriad of online platforms, Kevin. And for some people that are technologically challenged, that is a really big stress point in their life as well.
Yes.
We also know that many businesses have adopted either the hybrid or entirely remote workforce, which totally, almost entirely eliminates the opportunity for regular conversations and social interaction between co-workers in a face-to-face world. And the standout point here is that these same businesses, Kevin, are fundamental in their belief that it's vitally important that we find new ways to connect with each other, preferably in person. And some stats to support this again. 40% of remote workers miss spontaneous in-person connections with their colleagues. 49% of in-office workers found staying motivated and connected with their teams to be the biggest challenge. 31% of flex workers cited relationship building as difficult for them. And only 31% of marketers and 23% of sales professionals reported strong sales and marketing alignment at the organization, with a lack of effective communication, visibility across teams, and complete data on customers all factoring into the statement. And again, those are dire situations for organizations.
Do you know what's interesting, Craig? That relationship building, right? When you're building a relationship, you take the time to connect with someone. You take the time to ask questions. You take the time to inquire, right? So part of the problem that I'm noticing with people working in silos is people don't have the soft skill of confidence and relatability, and to kind of make friends. People don't have the ability to do that, right? Where in an office environment, you because you're hanging out, you're having a coffee, you kind of tend to sort of know how to do that, and you learn interpersonal skill. And that's why, I go back to the wings conversation that we've had a few times, that social intelligence being, how intelligent am I socially to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, Craig, I want to bounce something off you quick, even though we're sitting in two different cities, whatever. Where is the social intelligence? That's why, knowing that the world is moving in this direction, the future of employees needs social intelligence as one of the key performance skills that they'll need as an employee. It's very interesting.
Absolutely. We have to do a show on your wings program. It really just is a wonderful way of bringing all of these concepts together as well, Kevin. I really do believe that, and there's great content in there.
Yeah,
At the point three on the article talks about connecting with customers has never been harder, and this is really where the marketers need to lean in and get to understand how to overcome these negative trends that are finding their way into 2023. Taking the two previous points into account, it goes without saying the so-called new normal is affecting the way organizations connect with their customers, with research consistently showing that customer experience is crucial to an organization's short and long-term success. So let's have a look at some of the stats that support this statement. So 57% of the businesses measure their customer satisfaction as a way to track performance, making it the most commonly used performance metric. And we know there's some challenges with that approach in itself. Only 31% of sales professionals say that building trust and rapport with prospects became more crucial in 2022 than 2021. But it's getting a hell of a lot harder and more expensive, as we mentioned earlier. And recent sales engagement data backs that up as follows. 46% of salespeople reported that remote selling is less effective than in-person sales. And the key point to note is that 68% of companies are actually still doing some remote work in this late stage of 2022. That's, way over 2/3. And the final statistic is that 49% of businesses say that customer acquisition cost has increased in the past year, with the expectation that it's going to continue increasing in the short to medium term. Definitely not an easy place to be running, managing, or owning a small to medium-sized business these days, Kevin. But when you get to understand the net effect of these three principles on your business, you can lean in and hopefully start making some critical decisions to stem the negative tide.
Craig, I've been looking at from a sales perspective, one of the sales programs that we've actually put together for one of our clients recently. A large part of that is how do you connect to people on a completely different basis, right? Yes, calls happen. Yes, you get lead generation happening, but how do you, as an individual, connect to an individual more specifically and speak to their needs and what their needs are instead of trying to sell a product to them, right? So, I mean, it's been coming for a long time, this conversation about, it's not what you're selling, it's why you're actually, what it is you can solve for me and how you can do that most effectively. Once you get that frame right, again, it becomes a people skill and people relationship skill more than it becomes a selling skill. And, so many salespeople don't get that. It's really relationship building that people require. And what are you selling, dude? I'm not interested in what you're selling. But when you're taking the time to build relationships with people and use the opportunities to do that more effectively, you're far more likely to get buy-in from people than when you're just trying to sell a product.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
So, Greg, as we close the show today, fantastic points that we have raised today, and some things that I think a lot of people really need to curb and mitigate in some way in their organizations. But what are the key takeaways that we can share with the listeners today?
Yeah, Kevin, the three key points, definitely will expand on those as a key takeaway. But I want to start by referencing some of the important quotes that the article covered as well, and really great one, starting again with Yamini Rangan, CEO of HubSpot, where she noted the following: businesses are in a crisis of disconnection. Their systems and data are disconnected because of cobbled point solutions. They disconnected from their customers as buyers tune out saturated channels, and they disconnected from their peers in a more hybrid world. Technology, customers, systems, hybrid world, key problems there. Jan Dick, he's the Senior Vice President of Marketing at HubSpot, adds another angle to this point by noting that although living through a crisis is hard, it breeds creativity, and no one is more creative and scrappy than small to medium-sized businesses. And I really like that particular proposition. So yeah, so with all the doom and gloom hanging over our heads, I really do hope that we see more of the small to medium-sized businesses in South Africa optimizing their creativity and being able to actually eliminate the disconnections across their businesses by applying the three truths again. Those being internal systems are disconnected, people are working in silo post-pandemic, and connecting with customers has never been harder. But to give a quick summary on each of those points, internal systems are disconnected. The path to a sustainable growth and more connected customer experiences starts with a streamlined tech stack and central customized data. When teams are aligned around a single source of truth, everyone, including your customer, wins. So I really like that as a summary point. The second is people are working in silos post-pandemic. Employers don't have it easy either, Kevin, with employees simultaneously vocalizing the need for connection and expressing their desire for remote or flexible work environments. If your people are a big part of your value proposition, it's just about impossible to overstate the importance of building those bridges between the siloed teams and facilitating communications across geographic and structural lines. And then the third point, connecting with customers has never been harder. A nice summary point here is, with approximately 1 in 4 companies citing a lack of depth in relationship with customers as one of their top challenges this year, it's clear that the strategies we've all relied on in the past won't carry us into the future. This isn't to say that all old methods are obsolete. It just means that the modern day challenges require modern day solutions and a different frame of thinking, Kevin. And those are the key takeaways from today's conversation.
Fantastic, Greg. Thank you. Thank you for the summary of that. I think, again, as mentioned, really great points that organizations can sort of consider and really find strategies to how to set that up for more success in 2023. And really get themselves on board with that. So thank you for that. Guys, you can catch the Lunchtime series happening every Thursday live on ebizradio.com. And thank you for joining us today. Craig, thanks for a great topic, and thanks for chatting. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, looking forward to next week, Kevin, our 90th show. So yeah, hopefully we land a really great topic for next week. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Chat soon.
Ciao, ciao. Thanks.
Cheers,
Bye.
bye.